Is it appropriate for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to be attending the G7 in Kananaskis when there's an ongoing RCMP investigation into the Modi and government's potential involvement in the murder of Hardeep Singh?
Thank you for the question. Look, India has been at the last 6 G7 conferences. It's one of the biggest and fastest growing economies in the world. We need to sell our natural gas, our civilian nuclear power technology, and other resource projects to India, and we need to work with India and other countries on trade and security. So we, as Conservatives, understand that the invitation is necessary, and that we want to see the government work on addressing security issues at the same time as when Prime Minister has those conversations with Prime Minister Modi. The Prime Minister said there was a crisis. Breadcrumbs when we needed a bold move. Why not give that money back to the provinces that do it? I think the Prime Minister missed a chance with this bill and go around the terrible laws if you are politically favored. To have Shannon Stubbs, our Shadow Minister of Natural Resources, here. We both ran on a platform of putting Canada first by unlocking our resources, our entrepreneurs and our workers to make our economy strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. We also ran on bringing back the Canadian promise, where anyone who works hard gets a great life in a beautiful community and an affordable home. All that requires liberating the forces of our economy and our workers. Unfortunately, over the last 10 Liberal years, our economy has had the worst economic growth in the G7. We've become more dependent on the Americans, and the buying power of our workers' paychecks has declined because Liberal laws block resource development. Despite having the most resources per capita of any country on earth, we're not meeting our potential, and the recent tariffs from the United States have turned that problem into a threat and a crisis. The Prime Minister said there was a crisis that required immediate action. So what did he do today? Well, he introduced a law that will have almost no impact on inter-provincial trade. It's a small step, but it is breadcrumbs when we needed a bold move. A very small amount of inter-provincial barriers will be eliminated by this bill, which is better than nothing. But the tens of billions of dollars of obstacles at a provincial level are untouched because the Prime Minister has not yet incentivized the provinces to remove them. That's why we're proposing the government pay a bonus to provincial governments for every inter-provincial trade barrier they remove. And we can make that cost neutral, because every time you remove an inter-provincial barrier, you boost GDP and federal revenues. Why not give that money back to the provinces that do it, so that they have a powerful financial incentive, more money for healthcare and schools, to get these barriers out of the way? We also think the Prime Minister missed a chance with this bill to announce a Blue Seal professional licensing standard. We have 20,000 immigrant doctors, 32,000 immigrant nurses that could be reducing the wait times in our hospitals, which my wife and I experienced the other day when my daughter had a very minor visit to the hospital. They treated us very well, but they're obviously understaffed, and they need more doctors. We have these doctors, so why not get a Blue Seal that the provinces can agree to join, and they can automatically recognize any of those doctors trained abroad that meet our high professional standards through a rigorous national test. We've already done that in the trades through the Red Seal. Let's do it in the professions. It makes sense. That is one way to knock down barriers between provinces. So while the government made minor baby steps, what we needed was a big breakthrough on inter-provincial trade, and we will keep fighting for that. On resources. Today, the Prime Minister made a very interesting admission. He said that Liberal laws make it impossible to get anything built. And his solution to that is to allow certain politically favored projects to break those laws. So he'll say you can go around the terrible laws if you are politically favored. Why not just get rid of the laws? He admits that they are not needed to protect the environment, or else he would not allow any projects to go around them. He admits that they block things from getting done. So isn't the solution just to get rid of the law? I mean, if you have a wall that's blocking everybody from getting where they need to go, Why would you say that only a certain group of people are allowed to go around it and the rest must stand there facing that wall? Why not knock down the wall and allow us to develop our resources for real? I'll also note that the Prime Minister made a very troubling comment. I only heard it in French. I don't know if he said it in English, you might know. But he said that premiers will have a veto on resource projects and pipelines. Well, the most promising pipeline is from northern Alberta to the Pacific coast. And the NDP Premier of BC has said no to pipelines. So is the Prime Minister effectively saying we're not going to get any pipelines built? And if so, is he ceding to Donald Trump that the Americans will continue to get 80 to 90% of our energy projects products at enormous price discounts? It would appear to be the case. Now, look, Conservatives are happy to see any project, even one project, accelerated. And we will never stand in the way of even one project moving ahead because we are so desperate to see things built and Canadians working to do those projects. But we think that we need to take bold, across-the-board action for all projects. And that's why I'm announcing Conservatives will be happy to cooperate to pass a real national sovereignty law which would repeal Liberal C-69, the canker ban, the energy cap, the industrial carbon tax, and unlock our resources with shovel-ready zones that provide pre-permitting, clear conditions, and boundaries to start building mines, hydroelectric dams, nuclear plants, LNG liquefaction facilities, pipelines, and many more projects. We cannot wait. We do not need baby steps, we need breakthroughs. And Conservatives are here to work with all other parties to get it done because we want to put our country first. We want to be self-reliant, sovereign, and independent, and we want our people to have big, powerful paychecks that restore the Canadian promise that anyone who works hard gets a good life in our great country. Thank you very much.
Should Modi, is it appropriate for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to be attending the G7 in Kananaskis when there's an ongoing RCMP investigation into the Modi and government's potential involvement in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
Thank you for the question. Look, India has been at the last 6 G7 conferences. It's one of the biggest and fastest growing economies in the world. We need to sell our natural gas, our civilian nuclear power technology, and other resource projects to India, and we need to work with India and other countries on trade and security. So we, as Conservatives, understand that the invitation is necessary, and that we want to see the government work on addressing security issues at the same time when Prime Minister has those conversations with Prime Minister Modi.
Pourquoi c'est nécessaire que l'Inde soit
support
là?
legislation that improves the status quo. You said you would support legislation that improves the status quo. Does this meet the bar, and will you support it?
So we'll let you know on Wednesday. We have our caucus meeting Wednesday. It's baby steps when we needed a giant leap. Like I said in my remarks, we would vote in favor of accelerating even one project, even though we think there are literally thousands of projects that need to be accelerated. So our test is not whether or not legislation is perfect, but whether it is better than the way things are. And that's what we'll be looking at as we study this newly introduced bill over the next few days.
Minister Ananda Sangari said...
Vous n'êtes pas fermé à collaborer avec le gouvernement sur ce projet de loi-là?
Non, on n'est pas fermé du tout. En fait, on est tout à fait ouvert. En effet, si le Premier ministre veut collaborer avec nous, je pense que nous avons des suggestions qu'il va beaucoup aimer. Nous, comme je viens de dire, nous proposons et nous allons proposer de faire des amendements pour abroger la loi C-69, éliminer l'interdiction d'acheminer nos produits énergétiques vers l'Asie, d'enlever le plafond sur la production énergétique, établir des zones prêtes à bâtir pour, par exemple, développer le GNL Québec et d'autres projets comme ça. Donc, mon message pour le Premier ministre, c'est nous sommes là pour travailler en collaboration afin d'éliminer toutes les lois des libéraux qui ont empêché notre prospérité et nous ont rendus dépendants des Américains. Et c'est l'approche qu'on va prendre. We are happy to collaborate with any of the parties, on this bill, and we want to amend it to scrap the No Development Law C-69, the shipping ban, the energy cap, bring in shovel-ready zones, eliminate the industrial carbon tax. We will work on a nonpartisan basis with any party to do all of that before Canada Day. And if the Prime Minister is really interested in getting things done, I'm sure that he will work with us on that too.
Minister Ananda Sangari says that he'll have to recuse himself from any decisions based on the national security decisions related to the Tamil community. Are you concerned about a public safety minister who can't make decisions about that area?
I just learned of this afternoon, and I'd like to take a little more time to hear what he has said and what screen he's put in place before I offer a comment. Thank you very much.